Public Radio, 88.9 FM, the broadcast service of Morgan State University, WEAA, Baltimore. 88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA 88.9 FM.
Welcome to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. This holiday, it is my prayer that we focus on the words of God, whatever God you serve. As a Christian, my religion provides us faith and hope to overcome these difficult times. It is our love for one another that makes the sun shine, and on a very cloudy day, it gives us the promises of God that keeps us holding our head high and to not be weary in well-doing. This week we celebrate the birth of Jesus, born in a lowly manger, ready to do what was necessary to bring peace on this earth. How is it that we have allowed the enemy to get this much of a stronghold on our families, schools, churches, government, and individually? What happened that we lost sight of how we need to walk and bring hope to one another? Where is the spiritual leadership that carries us through these times of need, where wealthy communities allow hopelessness and helplessness and homelessness and starvation? Why are there so many empty homes while people sleep on the street, where schools are closing, yet too many children can't write or read? The battle is in full effect. The work needs to be done, and it is our duty to change our world. Walk in love, faith, hope, charity, and kindness. God's great plan for mankind included the necessity of a Savior, Redeemer of mankind. We're battling these principalities, but we know that we need to keep our armor on, and it will take us through on a daily basis. And we wish you a peaceful and loving holiday season. We're excited. Tonight we have a wonderful show, and in the studio we have our dear, dear friend and colleague, Victor Holliday. And we have Chef Judson Todd Allen and Peyton in the studio, and we have Chef Allen. You're there, and I'm sitting here going on and on and on unnecessarily. It sounds so ridiculous. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing so well, and so glad to be with you all this evening.
Listen, Chef Judson Todd Allen, the architect of flavor, Chicago native, CEO of Healthy Infused Cuisine. He is amazing and has been doing all kinds of stuff. He's got a new product, all natural, less hot, more flavor, all-purpose chef blend, hot sauce. Yep. You got a weekend coming up. You're on television and the NBC, all the Today Show and Steve Harvey. Chef Allen, first of all, you're from New Orleans.
Well, I'm not from New Orleans.
You're not born.
Not born. My grandfather is from New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah, so the roots run deep. The roots run deep in me.
They've run deep. And so you've had a nice experience globally to have all these flavors rolling around in your mind. How did you decide? When did you decide that you wanted to become a chef, first of all?
Oh, my gosh. You know, I tell people all the time, for me, it started off when I was very young. I used to dream about food. So, you know, I used to literally dream about food and dream about the different flavors. A lot of times it was more so along the lines of eating the food than cooking it. But you know, the older I got, the more I began to appreciate the art of actually cooking different types of cuisine, and coupled with kind of global travel, and then also watching my family in the kitchen, which is a huge inspiration for me. You know, that all kind of came together to make me kind of the chef I am today.
Well, you know, there's something else that you did that I think is really interesting. You created an environment where you were literally eating because you love to eat, and you had gained all of this weight but made this enormous change to change your life.
Correct, yes. You know, for me, like I said, I used to dream about food. Mm-hmm. So food was not only a passion, but it became an addiction. And, you know, I began to eat all the wrong types of food. So, that, of course, that lifestyle of overeating caught up with me. And, when I graduated from college, I had reached my highest weight at over 360 pounds.
But Chef Allen, what were you possibly eating to get to that point?
You know what?
What does that addiction mean? Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's like huge.
It is. It's huge. But,
huge in the sense of that you're eating food to take you to that place much.
So a lot of times we look at food as a comfort zone. We look at food as a friend. Especially when you have an addiction, it's no different than drugs or alcohol.
Okay.
So we use certain things to kind of cope with things that we may be going through personally. For me, it was food.
Okay.
So while I may not have been hungry, I was still eating. And of course eating all the wrong foods. If it didn't have grease on the brown bag, I probably didn't want it.
I know that fried chicken and French fries. Yeah,
exactly. If it didn't have the sauce dripping off the side of it, I wasn't interested. But it took that time. It took me looking at myself at that weight level and making the decision that I needed to make a change. And, I always appreciated flavor. I always appreciated food. So I used my education background, I used my knowledge to basically transform how I thought and felt about healthier food.
So had you already been studying at the Cordon Bleu and the Ritz in Paris?
Great question. You know what? I started my education actually in food science and nutrition.
I love it.
So, I went, I studied it at a wonderful university where I studied the food science, the nutrition, and I did that to make myself different and make myself unique. First of all, not a lot of African Americans pursuing careers in food science.
What is food science? Well, wait a minute. Let's back up. They may not be pursuing it because they don't know what it is.
They don't know what it is.
Right?
Well, sure. And I'll share. Food science is really the technical understanding of food. It's not the culinary side. Mm-hmm. It's more the scientific side. So you're looking at more of the sensory analysis, food chemistry, food microbiology. So you're looking at food just beyond the culinary aspects, but how food works. Not only in the body, but how foods work with our senses. It talks about engineering from a food perspective, so how different types of food products are manufactured. So it really gets into the science behind food.
That's fascinating. So you're like breaking down kale and all of the elements of what it can do if mixed with other types of greens or other types of foods, or...
Sure, and more so along the lines of flavor. So what type of flavors work well with kale? Kale is naturally a bitter green, right?
Okay.
So how do you balance that bitter and give your palate different elements that are satisfying? So to balance off the bitter, you want some sweet notes, you want some savory notes, you want some acidic notes.
Acidic. So what would acidic mean? Well, what would be acidic?
So acidic would be like your lemon juice or a type of balsamic vinegar. Mm-hmm. So those are some great acids that you can bring in and balance it off with some sweet notes like honey or dried cranberries or things like that, or figs, which I love figs. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I learned along the weight loss journey was that if I'm able to tantalize every aspect of my taste buds, sweet, salty, savory, all of those things, then it's a less likeliness that I will crave something after I eat.
Oh.
So, for example, sweet things, right? Mm-hmm. So in every meal, I try to include some element of sweetness into my meal. Just in the food in making the food. Like
sweet potatoes or something like that?
Exactly, like a sweet potato, or if I'm doing a salad, I may add in those figs or those dried cranberries to satisfy the sweet notes. That way I'm not craving the cheesecake after dinner,
Or the Magnum bar.
Okay.
There you go, Lord.
Those are really good.
It's crazy. Desperate for desperate times. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know, but and I tell people, the cool thing about it is it's all about moderation. A lot of people ask me, "Oh my gosh, did you completely cut out all of these different things out of your diet?" And I told them, I lost the weight not by necessarily taking, going cold turkey, because that can also do yourself a disservice.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
Well, how so?
When you completely go cold turkey sometimes, and now mind you, some people have to. So it depends on where you are in your journey.
Okay.
Right? But sometimes it gives you a false sense of growth in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
So if you completely take out something and then you begin to crave those things, you feel like you're cheating.
Okay.
And for me, it was, okay, how do I cut back? How do I become more knowledgeable of what I'm bringing in my body from a calorie perspective, from all those different, from a nutrition perspective, and then just limiting those things that I eat, and also focusing on the substitutions. So instead of using butter, I'm going to use olive oil. Instead of using heavy cream, I'm going to use avocado and almond milk and mix it together to create a cream.
First of all, I didn't even know that they had avocado milk.
No. I said so. So instead of using like a heavy cream, to cook with, I may use an avocado. And I may use almond milk, and then what I'll do is I'll blend those together to create a beautiful cream. Right?
Oh, you're kidding.
And that will give me the decadence that I'm looking for. Now, of course, you can add in different elements of flavor. Like if you were doing something sweet, you may want to add in some fresh vanilla or something like that. But you play around with the different substitutions to cut fat and calories.
So now here's another question for you. When you are looking at food, so you've identified avocado. I'm sure that there are groupings of things similar to avocado or other things that you can pull at a notice. So are you grouping all these things that are now the new substitute, that are healthy substitutions?
Sure. You want to be knowledgeable of the ingredients that are healthier for you. So, and a lot of times it's a Google search.
Okay.
What are looking up healthier fat. So instead of using the butter and the lard, what are some of those healthier options you can choose from? Grapeseed oils, olive oils, avocado, which has really good fat. What are some of those things that you can use as a substitution? And nowadays on the internet, you can get a list of a lot of different ingredients that you can choose from that a lot of people don't even know may exist, or they passed up in the grocery store time and time again.
Right. So, and not knowing what to do. Well, we see them, but what the heck do you do with them if you haven't been trained for it? I mean, there's so much stuff now. It's overwhelming, really, in the stores, and with all of the adjectives. How do you manage that? When you look at the organic versus natural versus something that's standard on packaging in the regular grocery store, what is best for us to use?
Sure, and I think everybody has their own approach and answers to that, right? So, for me, there are some things that I'm going to go organic with. There are some things that I may go all natural with. And there are some things that I'm just going to get this on sale,
Okay. Right.
And that's the real answer, So it's not to say that if you only eat organic, you're much better off than if you're eating something that isn't organic. You just have to kind of take a look and see what you're getting, what's involved in it. Always go fresh, when you can. You always want to clean and wash your vegetables and your fruit. Getting any element of pesticide, anything that may be on there, you want to make sure you thoroughly clean that stuff off.
What do you clean? What do you clean vegetables with?
Well, they actually have vegetable cleaner out there, that's available on the market. Or, I'll go back to what my grandmother used. I don't even know if they had vegetable cleaner back then, but Grandma used to put it in a colander and put water, hot water, like a warm water over it and clean it.
Right.
But it's just making sure you constantly clean it. That you're cleaning your greens, you're cleaning all those different things thoroughly, and just not eating them. Even if it is organic.
So what about these frozen foods? When you freeze foods, it's easier to stock up the fridge, put some frozen vegetables in there. Does it lose a lot of the vitamins or anything while it's there? Or?
Sure, and that's a good question. It depends. Again, it all depends on the type of frozen vegetables that you're getting. You can get frozen vegetables that have literally just been flash frozen, meaning that they're still fresh, but they've been flash frozen. And then you have to go through a heating process in order to cook them, just making them a lot, of course, making them easier to work with. And then you have those vegetables out there that have already been cooked, and then you have to cook them some more. So the longer you cook them, the more they've been cooked, the more you kind of pull out the nutrients.
Okay.
And then I would always stay away from the can, because it contains a lot of sodium that you don't need. You can't really control it. You can control how much sodium and what you put in fresh ingredients.
And making fresh beans. I'm into beans lately.
Oh, yeah. Beans are great.
Oh, my
beans,
gosh.
You can do so much with it.
So now we're up on the holiday.
Yep.
And people are coming over, and we want to do something. We want to show our prowess in the kitchen. What are some of the new things, the new hotness that we can do that can still be fortifying and comforting, but elegant and show-offy?
I like the word show-off. You're like me. I come up with the most extravagant of words.
Oh, yeah, we're going to make them up if they can't find them.
Exactly. I like that. Well, I tell people to literally think outside of the box. Get very creative when it comes to food.
Okay.
And not overly creative where it's you're putting a lot of work into it. But keeping it simple, keeping it flavorful, but being creative with it. So a couple of examples that we do for my family. We've been doing for the past 25 years brunch for Christmas. It's become a family tradition for us. And what it does is it allows us to really kind of showcase different type of food across the gamut, from breakfast to lunch to dinner, and a couple of really kind of fun options that your listeners and everybody can kind of play around with for this holiday season. One of my favorites, I do a sweet potato crumble, right? And it's really, instead of doing like baked sweet potatoes or yams,
right?
You can get a wonderful sweet potato, and what you'd want to do is you want to go ahead and bake it. So bake that sweet potato or roast the sweet potato to pull out the natural sweetness.
Okay.
And then you mash them up. And what I do is I like to add a little bit of, I'll add my cinnamon, my nutmeg, I'll add a little bit of brown sugar and honey in there, of course the fresh vanilla. And then I'll, like I told you before, giving it that creamy effect, I'll go ahead on and blend either a coconut milk or an almond milk with avocado, and then it creates a cream. And then I'll fold that cream in with these sweet potatoes. And then what I'll do is I'll get like some, fresh oats and nuts and seeds and dry fruit. And then what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of olive oil to that, and then sprinkle that on top of the sweet potatoes, and then put that in the oven, and it comes out so delicious.
So this is just on as like the topping for it?
This is the topping. So you get the crumble on top from the nuts and whatever else you want to add, the dry fruit. And if you like seeds, like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, you can do that, especially if you have nut allergies. And then you just add that on top of the sweet potatoes.
Oh, I love it.
And then you bake it. And it just gets bubbly, and it gets crispy, and it's like a sweet potato pie. Literally.
So, but I did not hear you say anything about eggs.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't use any eggs with it. None. And you don't need it. You don't need it. So you get again some of that decadence from the avocado and from the milk.
That sounds delicious.
And the sweet potatoes alone will hold its consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, are we into a meat world, or are we doing fowl or fish this year?
that's a good question. I do both, right?
Okay.
So again, keeping in line with tradition, but also, making it like a 2015 tradition.
Okay.
We do gumbo, right? And gumbo is really popular on Christmas. That's when you get out the big cast pot, and you go to the seafood market. You get the fresh chicken, and you get the sausage. So we do two different types of gumbo.
Okay.
We do a seafood gumbo, and then we do a chicken, okra, and sausage gumbo.
Okay.
So you kind of get the best of both worlds. For seafood, we use the crab and we use the shrimp, and we kind of make it, and it's great. Another thing that we like to do that I'm going to be doing this holiday is, instead of doing turkey or chicken, I'm going to do Cornish hens.
Oh, I love Cornish hens.
Yeah,
What are you going to do with yours?
So I'm stuffing the Cornish hens with a wild rice, mushrooms, and I'm going to be doing some chopped figs and jalapeno. And so the stuffing is going to be the wild rice, the mushrooms, the figs, and the jalapeno. And I'm going to stuff that inside of the Cornish hen. And then, add my seasoning and my fresh herbs.
Where do you live? I'm coming to your house. I'm coming to your house. I'm going to be there. Showing up and knocking on the door.
Knocking on the door. Well, for Thanksgiving, that's what seemed to happen. The door wouldn't stop knocking.
So do you
There's always room for you.
Well, you don't have to tell me. At Meredith and everybody they'll have to say, this girl is on her way. She's serious. She's not playing. So, so what about a vegetable? What vegetable are we going to, besides the sweet potato, are we going to do something green or?
Yep. I always do something green. And this year, I think Brussels sprouts have, well, I used to run away from them as a kid.
Okay, because my face got all turned up.
I know your face did. I know it did. like you and everybody else.
Whoa, no, I know he didn't go to.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, no way to Brussels sprouts. That was like okra to me.
Right.
But I found a really cool way to kind of make Brussels sprouts really good.
And they're cute.
What'd you say?
They're cute.
Yeah, they're nice. They're small. They're easy to work with. And what I do is I take a little sea salt. I'll take some olive oil. Again, the sea salt. I'll do some fresh lemon juice over them. I'll do fresh garlic. And then what I'll do is I'll put them in the oven and I'll roast them.
Oh.
High heat and get them super crispy and brown. And I'm telling you, it's like the potato chip of the garden. It is so good. Yes, because they get crispy. They're like little potato chips, and it's so good.
Well, wait a minute. Hold. I'm sorry. I need to get a visual.
Yeah.
So, are you putting them in a flat pan?
Yeah. So you'd put them on a baking sheet or a sheet pan. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you cut your Brussels sprouts in half. So make sure you cut them in half.
Okay.
And then you add your seasoning to those. You can add maybe a Cajun seasoning, black pepper, a little bit of sea salt, and then I always come with a little really finely minced garlic.
Okay.
And then lemon juice, and then I toss it all together, and then I put it in the oven at about 400 degrees for literally about maybe 25 minutes or so.
Okay.
And so they're like this beautiful golden, crispy brown color, and you want to literally eat them right out of the oven.
Right.
Take them out and be ready to serve them so that they're crispy. And I'm telling you, the cool thing about cabbage, because they're little bitty cabbages,
right?
So it produces sugars. So it's a natural caramelization that happens with those. So they become sweet, and then they pull in some of the saltiness and a little bit of that lemon flavor, that savoriness from the garlic, and they're so good.
And you know what? I think that's really interesting. And the reason why I don't like them is because that they're always bitter.
Yep.
When you and I was always boiling them.
Exactly.
Because I didn't know what else to do.
Oh, yes. My mother used to boil them all the time, and it was the worst.
Ooh, my eyes would cross.
Yes. But you throw them in the oven, you roast them. And then if you like them a little sweet, add a little bit of honey. Add a little bit of honey to them.
Oh, that sounds cute, too.
Exactly.
Nice and poppy. So now, I want to go back to, because this is a fabulous, I want to talk about one more thing, bread. Are you doing a bread?
Yeah, so, typically, a lot of times we don't do many special things with the bread, I'm not, well, I do like bread, but, you can definitely have it, like French baguettes. I'm a sourdough fanatic. I love it.
Okay.
The Hawaiian rolls are really good because they're sweet, but, I would keep the bread in moderation because a lot of times, especially for the holidays, we're already carb loaded.
Right.
So, bread is just that other thing that we really don't need, but we always do it because it's like we know it's there and we know that traditionally we always have to have a piece of bread on our plate.
Exactly. So now you're doing the Food Network. You've got this big project coming up in Chicago. We're going to have to close out this segment, but please share with us what we need to do in Chicago in January.
Sure. So in January, we're having the Chef Blend Weekend 2015 Chicago, and really it's celebrating the inspiration of flavor, bringing together some of the top chefs in Chicago, local restaurants and purveyors, all to celebrate flavor, organic, all-natural, locally sourced, fresh ingredients. And it's for a great mission, and it's for eradicating childhood obesity in low-income communities and food deserts.
I love it.
So, we're encouraging people to come out and celebrate with us, and it's a nod to the launch of my hot sauce that you talked about, which is our Chef Blend all-natural, all-purpose hot sauce, less hot, more flavor. And, if individuals are interested, I'd love for them to go to our website, check out more information about it, learn about some of the restaurants that are going to be present, and learn how you can get involved. The website there is www.chefblendweekend2015.com. Again, www.chefblendweekend2015.com.
And if they want to know more about you, it's just Judson Todd Allen.com.
Yep. So they can go to my website at Judson Todd, Todd Allen, ALLEN.com, and I'll give that one more time. Judson, Jud as in David, SON, ToddAllen.com, and they can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that hashtag or that tag is Judson Todd Allen as well.
All right. The architect of flavor.
Yes.
Chef Judson Todd Allen, thank you so very much. Your career is incredible. I love you on the Food Network. I love seeing you on Steve Harvey. I love seeing you. You're just everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck and have a happy, happy holiday.
You as well, and thanks so much for having me.
All right, dear. Thank you.
All right.
You're listening to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Welcome back to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Today is Hashtag Monday, and we are here with Shaka Berry, who is a community activist, mentor, and board member of a nonprofit organization for troubled youth, and a big blogger. Hey, how you doing, Shaka?
I'm wonderful. How you doing today?
I'm great. And Shaka is the contributing blogger to the AngryBlackRant.com. And we also have in here, we have somebody with us here today, Shaka, so you should be in the studio. Victor Holliday, who is a writer, producer, media communications consultant. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are trending, because Hashtag Monday is about the trend. We've got a lot of stuff been going on, Shaka. What have you been paying attention to?
Well, of course, I think pay attention to what everybody's paying attention to, what's going on in New York, the 2 cops that were murdered.
Yep.
that, and as well as the previous protests before that, the police brutality that's ongoing. How about yourself?
Well, it's everything that's going on with the police brutality, but also North Korea, and North Korea actually being in a position now where they're having their internet intercepted. So it is very interesting. So, hey, Victor.
Yeah, and especially behind the whole idea of the movie The Interview. I mean, which, come on. I mean, to create a movie about the assassination of a current leader of a country is not the most creative project to be doing in the first place. And when you look at the season in which these things are occurring, it's especially an affront to what we are supposed to really kind of focus on and be about during this holiday time of the year. Because we know it's all about, let's get to the best of who we are, the depth of our spirit, sharing with the ones that we love and care about, expressing loving kindness, being open in the context of our spiritual journey, if you would. And, of course, this is an opportunity to reset our own personal selves. So that's also, so in the face of these kinds of things coming up, it's really kind of quite the moment of transformation, I'd like to think. Because you're going to really have to go to the core of your being to be in any state of peace, any state of loving kindness, any state of a higher awareness, so that you can still walk in the world as a positive force. And
but people aren't trying to do that, Victor. I mean, Shaka, what I'm seeing is, and I think it's really interesting, these people basically commandeered an entire infrastructure for a major Fortune 100 corporation. And it also says, I mean, because our spirits should be great, but this is
I was just mentioning that.
No, but I think it's really, but it's really important.
Yeah.
We have digressed, or we've gone to another place where we feel so strongly about something that we're going to just shut you down.
I mean, I think it's a number of ways to look at it. I looked at it a number of ways. I think. At the end of the day, I mean, maybe I'm an eternal optimist, but I do see a more positive light on that. That.
What is it?
I mean, just like he said, how untoward is it to make a movie about killing a world leader?
Well, I think we start there. That's negative. We shouldn't even be.
So, and that's a major corporation that has. That's more powerful than governments. Actually, you look at we live in much of a corporatocracy right now. I mean, so.
A corporate what? I didn't hear you.
A corporatocracy.
Oh, uh-huh.
I mean, where corporations run us. So I think them going and sending the message to Sony. And Sony halting. Because we all know that North Korea wasn't going to bomb no theaters. So it was something else. They got Sony in a place where Sony is humbled. The American people can't humble our corporation. They continue to take power from us.
And we probably haven't even heard the end of what they have actually been able
to, they have
where they can go on. But here's the thing, Shaka, that came to my mind immediately. As a citizen of America, how would I feel if some other foreign country made a film about the assassination of the president of my country? How would we respond to that as Americans if it was this film about, let's take Obama out? It's just the kind of thing that's in such poor taste to be doing in the first place that it incites, a lot of this affliction that we're now having to deal with.
And that's looking at it on the kindness side, the more innocuous side. But at best, at worst, you're really planting seeds. Hollywood has long been used as a tool to control how people think and how. How we socialize.
Right.
So to make that kind of movie, what else? There is something. It's something really wrong with that. I'm glad they stopped it. I'm pretty sure they're going to show it anyway. But you shouldn't be allowed to get away and stoke that kind of anger, foment that kind of fear of other nations. It doesn't bode well.
But the president of the United States of America said he wished that Sony had called him.
The president of the United States says a lot of things that he has to say.
So you don't think that is his position?
No, I don't think everything he says is his position. I can guess. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But that's really irrelevant what he thinks, because Sony the Sony chair knows better. So the president say anything he wants, but it's only, the person who greenlit that film knows better than than to let it go. So what the president says, he says a lot of things. Even with respect to what's going on in New York with the ongoing protest, I'm pretty sure he doesn't say everything he feels. Well, he can and has to say.
But I guess I have another issue here too that. I'm struck by the fact that they made a threat, and we've already seen what threats, the results of those. We've seen 9/11. We've seen what happened in Waco. We've seen just destruction of American lives behind foolishness. And so how can you take something like that lightly?
Because you're talking about, first of all, we get threats from Islamic, our so-called enemies, our so-called people, the people that are so-called most responsible for terrorists, Islamic fundamentalists. We get that all the time. That doesn't stop the show. We still go on with what we do. Mm-hmm. So for them to take seriously a threat of violence from a nation that has they don't have any capability, infrastructure in our country. They're isolated.
How do we know that? A lot of people thought that people over in Iraq or Iran or wherever in the Middle East didn't have, but there are people who are living in this country who have visas to work here. How do we know? How do you know who these terrorists might be?
Other than towards the South Korean on that border, there's no act of terror that they're known for. So to take seriously that kind of threat, when we all know that they have a treasure trove of emails on Sony executives that at any moment they can drop on this nation and really turn Sony upside down.
Well, they've been turning Sony upside down. Sony can't even catch air. So they've been whipping every day. They release a little bit more. So one day it's...
Well, here's the thing I wonder. I wonder if any of this was actually thought about in advance of the release of this film. What did they think was going to happen?
Well, so, arrogance.
And to what
Sandy,
extent
my daughter was talking about pride comes...
Did you not think about
my daughter says what the Bible says. The Bible says pride comes before a fall. Right?
Right, there it is.
And when you on top of the world and no one says no to you, not even your own government, so you think in some little third world country like North Korea, they can't do anything, but they can.
So should they have some kind of consequence or something?
I would suspect that the outages that they're experiencing today is a consequence. At the end of the day, what they did, it wasn't as egregious as what they could have done. It was a retaliation for something that they thought was petty, and I think we're getting them back right now.
But what about all of the ugly emails that have been distributed, that have been released from the chairman and the CEO and their opinions of, Denzel and Kevin Hart and all? Come on.
I don't think any of that came as a surprise.
But there's one thing to assume
those attitudes
that
exist.
There's one thing to assume that they do. There's another thing to
actually read it. Right.
But this is how savvy North Korea is. That's nothing. All those, even the worst of those emails, the jokes about Obama, the fact that they said that, which is true, Denzel wouldn't make as much money. You won't be a box office hit internationally, which is true, because international is racist overseas. So, but for them to drop that, and that's still, that was enough, which is really innocent. They didn't say nothing when we know that they've said the worst. They have access to worse. They dropped out the teasers, which is really nothing. So, and that stopped them. So that they have much more.
Oh, yeah.
There's been, deeper, darker secrets on those emails.
No question.
And so that was enough to shut them up.
Mm.
That's deep too, Shocker. So when we look at what this cybersecurity does, the real fallout, the bigger picture, what do we do with that? That's kind of scary that somebody can be 9,000 miles away and can just arbitrarily go into your corporation and tap into its entire infrastructure and change your whole corporate structure.
Well, that's the world in which we live now, isn't it? And that genie is not going back in the bottle. I mean, the technology has made now a transparent world.
Yes.
And if it's out
Really
there
transparent.
and you put it out there, somebody else can get access to it. So we're going to have to begin to live in a very different context moving forward because the paradigm has shifted. And so it is now possible.
What kind of context is that, though?
Well, we're going to have to live with more integrity is what I think you would really have to do because you can't hide the same way you could in the past. You know, like they could go in and expose Sony's emails. Well, you got to be careful about what not only what you're saying, of course, but what you're writing. And as executives in the movie business, you would think, that they would give some thought to this. I mean, I've worked in this business for over 30 years, and I got to tell you, everything is on the record.
Yes.
It really is. You don't know where
literally.
A microphone may be, and you certainly don't know when your photograph is being taken.
Nope.
And the bottom line to that is you're just going to have to walk and live with some integrity and be your best self at all times.
All times.
Is really the good part
You
about what this paradigm shift is.
You got to walk in truth
really
and
do.
love.
Because it will come back. It will come back to haunt you.
Well, let's talk
or
about...
to bless you, depending upon how you
exactly
actually walk with that. So that's where it is. I mean, there's nothing that's so hidden anymore. Your stuff can really get out there, and it can be gotten at. And your life can be disrupted. Yeah.
Imploded. So speaking of somebody's life that could be imploded, what about this... New York police union president who decided that he wanted to say that it's because of the protesters and it's because of de Blasio and his opinion of these two cops getting killed in New York. What do you think about that, Shaka?
I mean, on the one hand, it's unfortunate to hear that. I mean, it's dangerous for him to speak like that because he has such a large perch and he's responsible for, an army, essentially.
But and a real army, a military ready, militarized.
On the flip side, I think anyone who's open-minded, who's fair-minded, who has a semblance of common sense, can see that he is part of the problem. I mean, and the problem is endemic. I mean, it's part of the culture. I mean, I growing up, I thought my mother was crazy when she would just drilled into me to stay away from cops and how dangerous. She was crazy to me. But the more as I grew, I see it. They New York NYPD especially. They are a special breed. I mean, it's part of their culture to be disrespectful, to violate you and be okay with that. I mean, it really is.
How is it going to change, though? What is it that we need to do as citizens? I mean, the reality is I get ticked off because I've had several of them rude with me, and I'm just ready to die saying what I'm going to say. So whatever y'all going to do, we're going to do it right here. And I really mean that. I'm paying your salary. My taxes that get taken out for whatever city I'm living in goes to pay your salary. And this is the disrespect you're supposed to protect, and you're not doing that.
Well, I think with these current situations, what we are forced to look at is what the real circumstances are in terms of relationships between the police and the citizens. Now, of course, there was a time I remember early in my life coming along where you would find cops on the beat,
right,
and perhaps you might even know who they were.
Officer friendly.
Okay, officer friendly. So over a period of time, as the society has grown and crimes have become even more violent in nature lately, because of all the stresses that we live under as a nation.
Right.
And people are doing things that they ought not to do, that they feel they have to do in order to live their lives, this sort of thing. But the police officers' training needs to really be given a second and third look. And I think sensitivity training, diversity training. I mean, you come to the police force with baggage, okay? You just do. You have grown up somewhere. You have experienced life in a particular context. And all of that comes along with you when you come to the police force. And the difference between you and the citizen is that you have a gun in your hand.
And now, you have the right to use it.
Now, if you don't have respect for all people and for all of life, seeing all of life as valuable, would you shoot somebody who looks like you as quick as you would shoot somebody who does not?
But they're not.
So, there's some serious pathologies that exist with us that we're going to have to face and we're going to have to overcome. And that means that how people get trained, okay, and the kind of people who get selected for the police force.
And who's training them?
A serious look.
Like you said, even before in the selection process, they need to have a better litmus test to measure the level of empathy these guys are capable of. Because if you're not able to empathize with other people, I don't think you shouldn't be a cop. You should be a cop. I think because especially if you're policing a community that's foreign to you. And a lot of these cops, especially in NYPD, mostly in the cities. I will say this: DC has. I can't say too much bad about DC's police force. They're decent human beings, so there's a culture there that fosters community relations. So I feel like I have to say that. But New York and other places that I've been, and what we've heard from Ferguson, there's not that.
Oh, Ferguson is like on a different planet.
No, actually, they're
it's like third world the way they behave.
They're not far from that planet at NYPD. I mean, they're probably cousins.
Remotely related.
Well, there again, I mean, given the technological age in which we live,
we should be
some of these horrible crimes can no longer be hidden. I mean, now so much of it is being caught, so that here is the substantial proof right before you.
Right.
That why was it necessary to choke a person to death?
But we have it in front of us,
that,
and it didn't matter.
It didn't necessarily mean a conviction.
It did not matter.
For the officer who,
It did not matter. And that's where all of my pain and anger, how do you walk away from that? Who are you? What is going on? And it says to me that there's this underlying group of Ku Klux Klan destined type people who are still, they funded Wilson. That man has over $100,000 plus, almost, I don't even know what the bottom line is on how much money people gave to him. So when he is no longer working and getting paid, he has a nest egg for he and his new wife after they came back from their vacation, because nobody knew where they were for weeks.
A lot of that is the media, and this is why I would say that we need a more robust black media, because the way these stories are presented, they're presented in almost like in a way that one that challenges the innocent black life that was taken, or even white life at that time. They counted that life, everything he did. He stole something in kindergarten. It goes on.
Right, exactly. But you know what? Let me just go back to what you said with the black press. We don't support the black press, and we need to be doing that. We need to subscribe to their papers. Yeah. We need to keep the WEAAs on. We have to finance our media. You can't get there from here. Listen, we've got to close this out. Thank you all so much, but we're going to close this out with Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary from Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, and he serves as the CEO of the Douglas Memorial Community Church, 2 community development corporations camped farther south in the Douglas Village. And he's my friend, and I love him. Dr. Yeary, tell us how we can roll out of this, because the country is in pain. We don't know what to think, what to feel, what to believe, we don't know anymore. And we are ripe for a lot of problems.
Well, first, my sister, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for not going through all the rest of that. I'm honored to spend this time in conversation. 2 things. One is acknowledging pain is essential in the process of healing. For far too long, it has been assumed and presumed that we should live in a perpetual state of denial, as if that which is happening to us does not hurt us. So the fact that there is acknowledgement of the pain, it now allows us to do what is often done when we go to the doctor's office. Before they start dealing with the treatment of the current issue, they want to know, what is your medical history?
Okay.
We've got to put things in historical context when we look at the interactions between people and forces and power and the black community over time. This is not a 21st century project. It is an updated version of really kind of an old story.
Mm-hmm.
And so until we put it in its context, you'll continue to have these the pointing of fingers as if somehow or another we're trying to inflame tensions and situations on the basis of factual events that are really kind of disconnected. They're used to subvert the deeper conversation that needs to happen. So the nation is in pain, and the pain has been denied for so long that now the woundedness is coming to the surface. But here's one thing about the body, and I think it is also telling in terms of our conversation. Pain acknowledges two things simultaneously. One is the injury, but also the beginning of the healing. And if you can acknowledge the pain and not just get stuck in the hurt, the healing is happening simultaneously. Can you start that healing process and move it forward by acknowledging the pain for what it is?
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. When you start to acknowledge it, it's kind of hard to wiggle out of that pain when it's coming at you so hard and so fast. I mean, like, we knew, maybe I feel like it was just lying dormant, that we knew we came out of slavery. We knew that we had built our own businesses. We knew that people burned our businesses down and destroyed our communities. We knew that all of a sudden we had the conversation from people talking about the prison industrial complex becoming a reality and on Wall Street. We looked at the people on Wall Street when they tried to get out of that. We watched all of that, and then we started actually talking about the murders that were going on. But then with social media, we got to see them. How do you get that visual? How do you get that echo out of your spirit?
Well, you get it out of your spirit by creating a new image, right? Until you frame new imagery, you end up replaying old tapes.
Wow.
And so that's where the fight and the cause for justice is so absolutely essential, because as we're talking about what's happening recently, we have to remember that Ferguson happens in St. Louis County. St. Louis County, where the city of St. Louis sits in the shadow of the Gateway Arch,
right,
is the courthouse where Chief Justice Tarney issued the Dred Scott decision.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And remember, the Dred Scott decision said that there were no rights that any black man had that any white person was obligated to honor. So in the course of the evolution of the racial trajectory, though many well-meaning white folks would say, we're just holding on to old tapes. No. You have to remember, black folks are the only folks in this country that had to be legislated into personhood.
Right.
We went from property to being 3/5 of a person to having gone through emancipation, then having to work through Jim and Jane Crow, and then having to go through all of the violent resistance that led up to the civil rights movement. And then in the denial that was tied to November 4th, 2008, when Barack Obama is elected president of the United States, we now come away with this opportunity now to get a pass on having done the work, because we think by electing a black man president, we have somehow resolved all of our deeply entrenched racial issues. And unfortunately, what we're finding out is we've been living in a perpetual state of denial for 6 years, and that denial is catching up with us.
Yes, it is.
And I think what's the reality is that all it did was create an environment for all that cream to come to the top. So all that dormant pain that these people, or hate that some of these people have had, they thought the first election was a fluke, and then the reality of it made them crazy. The Koch brothers have spent millions of dollars trying to be in control of this country, and there are more like them.
Well, the structure is the structure.
Yeah.
All right. So the Koch brothers or anybody else that is seeking to advance an interest, they've always been around. The question is, are the people who have been injured by the structure, going to position themselves to advance their self-interest as an act of resistance. I've said this very often recently. Do the Right Thing is a movie. It's a Spike Lee joint. It is not a political philosophy. Mm-hmm. Do the Right Thing in politics is just as asinine a concept as anything else. It is your community organized sufficiently to advance its self-interest in the right to advance your own just cause? Your issues are valid issues. Our issues are valid issues.
Right.
How do we keep ourselves out of the need to have to justify why we are not happy with some of the encounters with police? And no one has ever said that we are trying to paint all police officers, all public servants with the same brush. But what we are saying is that if that's the consideration, we too want to be able to enjoy the benefit of the protect and serve without having to be profiled on the basis of who we are or who we're perceived
and
to
the
be.
color of our skin.
Absolutely.
Listen, Dr. Yeri, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. I want my grandson to come over here and say happy holidays. Peyton. And we would like to thank you for listening to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA. We want to thank all of our guests, Victor Holliday, Shaka Berry, Dr. Todd Yeri, Chef. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm going to go to that man's house because Chef Allen is just amazing. So make sure that you sign up for our newsletter, Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews at gmail.com. Tune in next week, and we wish you a happy, come on, Peyton.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Tune in next time on WEAA, the voice of the community.